Hello and welcome. This is episode 15 of Future Tech Chat. Uh, Today we will be discussing parenting and the technology that is involved in parenting. So today I'm here with Mike Attrell. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing fantastic. It's Father's Day weekend. It's like the one
Yeah.
day out of the year that I get, other than my birthday.
Yeah, I guess Christmas doesn't really get you anything, does it? Not like it
No,
used
not
to.
once you have a kid.
Although I've heard lots of things about dads buying themselves uh, gifts. Like
Yeah,
not on Father's Day, but on Christmas they'll buy themselves something nice that they want.
I usually buy us something nice, but it's mainly for me.
Maybe that was just my dad.
Yeah,
I'm sure eventually it'll get to that point. You'll see a nice tool set that you need, and
exactly. And it'll be from Santa.
there you go. That's that's really the perfect system. Actually, my parents get themselves gifts from Santa all the time
Yep.
too. So this is a special Father's Day edition of Future Tech Chat. Uh, and what better time to discuss the technology that's involved in parenting?
I agree.
As we've discussed, you are a dad already. You'll be celebrating Father's Day tomorrow,
Yes.
but I am at some point going to be a dad. I'm not there yet, but I've certainly started thinking about these kinds of things already with technology and seeing. I mean, with the first thing that comes to mind when I think about parenting and like raising kids is cell phones. Um, I was in the sort of I think, and you were probably the same, that when we were getting into high school, people were just starting to get cell phones around 16 years old, and but they were not anywhere near the devices you'd get today. And I don't know what did you what at what age did you get a cell phone?
I think it was probably around grade 10. So yeah, 16 or so. And I think for me, it was mainly to text you and to call the bus to see when it was coming. That was pretty much the function that it served.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, there wasn't by any means any sort of technological device by today's standards.
Right. So it wasn't something that was useful in school to be
No,
texting other kids or anything like that.
no,
And at that point, it was well for me. It was 15 cents a text. I don't remember if you had the unlimited or if you were doing that as well.
no. Yeah, it was the pay as you go. But then Virgin came out with their, I don't know, it was like 5 cents text Virgin
Yeah.
to Virgin, and I was like, yes.
Yeah. That was a great incentive for young kids to make sure
Yeah,
they were on the same network.
exactly.
Uh, but yeah, so that was us 10 years ago almost now. But it's definitely changed a lot now. Like Snapchat, for instance, is a huge problem because every kid has a cell phone going down. I don't know when they start, but they definitely start a lot younger than 15 or
Hmm.
16 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've seen just being out in the malls and that kind of thing, and just hearing stories from Maria on her Facebook message boards that kids have cell phones as early as 7, 8.
Yeah.
And I think we'll probably get into it a bit later in the show. But it definitely serves its purpose. But I think there definitely needs to be. It's not a black and white issue. There's definitely some judgment to be made for that.
Yeah. I mean, there are certain, obviously we'll talk about it, but phones, like you can have a smartphone with all its apps and internet connectivity, or you can just have a device that basically has GPS and a button that calls. Um, like I think there's a phone that kids can get, or that parents can get for kids, that it literally just has location tracking, and there's four buttons on it, like numbered one, two, three,
Like
four.
speed dial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they can just literally press one button and call home, and that's basically all the device does.
Hmm.
I think there's something to be said for that. But yeah, having a cell phone at that age, I certainly wouldn't have needed it. I'm sure I would have loved it, but it definitely wasn't necessary, and probably I can't say for sure it would have done some damage to like growing up. I know that it's already sort of people are talking all the time about how it ruins our lives being
Hmm.
so connected, and it's hard to say what kind of impact that would have on a child.
I think our age was the age of, Game Boys and Nintendos, and I think we had our fair share of distractions. I don't think it was as constant as it is now. It's like, you got home at the end of the day after school and played Nintendo or played on the computer or whatever. So, I wouldn't say that we're outside all the time, but it's like, I think now it's just, you always feel distracted by your phone because it's always buzzing or you're always wanting to check something or whatever. So I think it's definitely two different things, but I don't think we would have been worse off. I think it would have just been a different kind of distraction than we had back then.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's the point that I mean, it's a point that I just thought of, but like when if you had a game console, for the most part, you had to it was rooted in one spot. I mean, with the Game Boy, you could like bring it to school or bring it places, but I never had one of those. So for me, if I wanted to be distracted, I need to be sitting at a computer or sitting at, I think we had Super Nintendo,
Hmm.
but it wasn't something that I could just take with me.
Right.
It
And
was
that's
not
why,
the moment. That's
yeah,
what you're
and that's why it's constant now, right? Like you always have it with you, and if you don't have it, you panic, and it's like, oh crap, where's my phone?
saying.
So it's like it's just different today,
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, right now I'm actually running an iOS beta on my phone, and so I'm not always sure if I'm going to be away from power for a full day. I'm hesitant to have it using a lot of battery just in case
Hmm.
it is too much.
Yeah.
Um, and so I find myself putting it in airplane mode if I know that I'm not going to need it
Hmm.
for any period, like for an hour or two, and that's really it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any issues or if you're able to sort of unplug when you need to.
I think, I guess if we're going back to today versus when we were kids, um, I think as a child you have you have a short attention span, but I think it's even more than I think it's more like you need. I don't think a child would have the same sort of attention to a phone as adults do. Maybe it's just because I don't have a child old enough to do that, so maybe I'll be proven wrong. but um, but yeah, like I think it's yeah for me if I know I don't have to be near a phone, like I have my work phone, I have my personal phone. If I don't need to be near my work phone, then that's pretty liberating, and it's like oh sweet, don't have to worry about that. But
Right.
I think I always still feel like kind of uneasy not staying connected like that.
Yeah. I definitely yeah, it's definitely weird for me not having it at least like if it's on airplane mode and it's still in my pocket, I definitely feel like it's just not using power.
Right.
I don't need any messages instantly. I'm not
Yeah.
super in demand that like there's nuclear codes on my phone or something that someone's gonna
Yeah.
need.
But you can still check it if you need to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Be back on. So I guess let's start at the bottom and we'll talk about because we want to talk about technology parenting. We don't want to just talk about teenagers. We want to talk about all through ages. And you've been through this recently. So why don't we go down to, I mean, there's all kinds of baby monitors, security systems for kids. Um, why don't you talk a bit
Yeah.
about your experiences in the first couple of years?
Yeah. So for those who don't know already, we have a 19-month-old now. So I've been a dad for 19 plus 9 months, I guess. So even going back to before our daughter was born,
Mhm.
we were able to use technology even from just the medical care we got and the ultrasounds and being able to look online for I'm feeling this. What does that mean? Not for me,
Sure.
obviously, but um,
Well,
well,
there's
yeah,
one condition I can think of.
different kind of feelings, but
Yeah.
so but we were actually able to order I think I mentioned this on an earlier episode. We were able to order a Doppler, little handheld Doppler
Yeah.
reader, and we were able to actually hear our daughter's heartbeat. Um, and it was really cool, like to be able to do that. And it's like, even 5 years ago, people probably weren't doing this. Like it was
Yeah.
probably around, but no one even really thought to do it. And we had a 3D ultrasound done. That was cool, like to be able to see like how she looked inside the womb.
Yeah.
So going from there, and then yeah, like shopping for baby stuff, for like baby monitors and just gadgets and just even if you don't think about like electronic technology, but just like baby carriers and all that kind of stuff, like just like it's developed so much, and I think we take for granted sometimes how our parents didn't have any of that, like literally nothing. They
Right.
didn't have, they had nothing that we had. They had like I don't even know what they had,
They
but
make
it
like
was
a sling out of cloth.
yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like they had very rudimentary baby monitors. I think that was probably the newest technology they had back then.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but these days you can set your phone up to be a baby monitor if you wanted to, and just have it remotely. Not that
Yeah.
you'd leave your house with your baby still in it, but
Get a little
it's
push notification.
yeah, no, like
Baby's
seriously,
crying. Yeah, I
like
know.
when you're downstairs and you're on the same Wi-Fi network, you
Yeah.
monitor and it will like let you know when your baby's crying. It's like that is crazy. That
Your baby's crying at 40 decibels. Don't worry
yeah,
about it. We'll let you get
exactly.
higher.
Yeah. And there are actually baby monitors that have little like warning lights. So they'll have like green, yellow, and then red. So when it's like red, it's like yeah, you actually have to go get your baby.
Yeah.
But and then they have angel care monitors where like there's a pad underneath the crib, underneath where they're sleeping, and it monitors their breathing.
Oh,
So that
wow.
if your baby stops breathing, then it like sends out an alarm because you're trying to prevent SIDS.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, they actually haven't been scientifically supported enough to make it say yeah they actually prevent or give early warning, but I think for some parents it might.
It's just the, like it's a comfort
It's
thing. You want,
psychological comfort, yeah, exactly.
yeah.
But I don't know, and that's just not even getting into the later years of technology.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can have baby monitors that have a wireless camera attached.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, video baby monitors they have too. So um, again, I don't know. Like for us, we looked at it and it's like, well, we're probably gonna get out of our bed and go see her anyway. So I don't know
Yeah.
what purpose a
Right.
video is gonna.
It's not like you're gonna leave and then just keep an eye on her and keep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you're crying, you're probably gonna go get her anyway. So, but I don't
Yeah.
know. It's again, it's that psychological. Or if parents feel more comfortable doing it, then it's at least available for them.
Right. Yeah, it's neat. I mean, yeah, have you found switching tacks a little bit? Have you found? I'm sure that Emma's played with your phone or tablet or even maybe laptop a
Yeah.
little bit, like just poked around on it.
Yeah.
And I've seen lots of videos and heard anecdotes about how kids come really quickly to that technology. Like they're instantly familiar with computers and they'll play with it for 5 minutes and they'll sort of know. It'll at least seem like they know exactly what they're doing. Have you
hmm
found that?
Yeah, she took an early interest to our phones because they'd make a noise and be like, "Oh, what's that?" And every time the phone goes off, she'll like know that it's the phone and she'll go and grab it. And but we actually have a tablet like a Nexus 7 that we downloaded some apps for her just to see if she'd take to them. And she's actually at the point now where if she sees a tablet somewhere, she'll like pick it up and like bring it to us so that she can like play with it.
Right.
And so we'll load the app up, and when the app starts, it has like a little like "in kids," and she gets all excited when it does that, and like the game will load, and she'll actually like it's like there's one where the animals will pop out, and it wants her to like point at them, like touch them, right? So
Okay.
she'll
Yeah.
the lion comes out, and she'll like look, and then she'll touch the lion, and the lion makes a noise, and then like a snake comes out, and she touches the snake, and the snake makes a noise, right? Like,
Right.
but she's doing it very intentionally and understands how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, she'll accidentally close the app a couple times. You have to like reopen it for her because
Right.
there's no function to keep it open. But
The cool thing, getting off track, not off track a little bit, but the iPad has a thing called guided access, like
hmm
you can set up where you can actually lock it down into one app, and you have to perform a special set. I think it's triple press the home button,
hmm
and then it'll ask you for a password and let you out of that mode. But otherwise, it just stays in one app, and it won't close the app. It won't like all you'll be able to do is turn the screen on and off.
Oh, really? Yeah, because that's what you're looking for the Nexus, and there are apps you can download where when you try to exit, it kind of closes but then reopens itself. But there's no way, like how there's like the soft buttons on the Nexus phones, right?
Yeah.
If you press the back button, there's no way to disable the soft buttons. So
Right. It seems
you'd have
weird.
to,
That's why they're
yeah.
soft.
So you'd have to get like a case. So for all those developers out there and manufacturers, if you develop a case that covers up that portion where the soft buttons are,
All right.
that would be like perfect because then you can just load the app, put it in the case, and then they're just in that app, and there's no way to like exit out of it because the soft buttons are covered.
Right.
But currently, there's nothing. Like I was thinking, put electrical tape over top and that might shield the buttons from being activated, but I
That's
don't know.
strange to think that developers would have access to the software buttons. Like that's why they're soft. You can
Yeah,
program them to do
yeah,
what you want, and it could be nothing. Or
yeah, yeah. And I think there's a Google app that you can lock the soft buttons, but it's not a kid's app. Like I don't know why they haven't implemented it in others. When I saw it, I'm like, why don't they just do this in all those apps, right? Like, but I
yeah,
don't know. They need to figure out a way to do that better. But
right.
anyway.
So yeah, one interesting thing that sort of as children get older and start getting into teenage years, uh, one of the things I want to talk about is knowing where your kids are through technology. And I don't know, because on one hand, I thinking about my own childhood. As I grew up, obviously you get more freedom and you're allowed to go further away from your house and you have less and less supervision. Um, but I kind of like that freedom for a child. As they get older and show that they're responsible enough to handle it, it sort of seems like if you have location services tracking your child, that doesn't really tell you where they are. That just tells you where the thing they're holding is. And for me, it seems like it might have the side effect of, I don't know, like giving you a false sense of security. Like you might
Hmm.
think, oh yeah, still on the playground, we're good, but
Hmm.
you can't. That doesn't really tell you very much.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's not a replacement
Yeah.
for parenting. It's just a nice convenience. Like if you have,
Yeah.
if it's an adult, you can be fairly confident that they're going to keep their phone with them, and you're not just going to be watching a phone that was lost. But
Right.
it seems like with a kid, that's what's likely to happen.
Oh, Nick's
Hey, look
here.
at that. We have a third person, Nicholas.
Nice of you to join us, Nick. He's muted right now.
Yeah, he's muted. He has to unmute himself. I have no power over this.
There we go.
Oh my god. Is that my voice? My sweet sultry tones I hear?
Are you hearing your own sweet sultry tones?
Yeah. It's pretty nice, I gotta say.
Speaking of children, hi Nick.
um, so Nick, we were just talking about tracking our children and
Yeah,
the pros and cons of that. So speaking of knowing where our kids are, Nick checked in, and
and now
so
we know.
at least now we know where he is. So that's good.
And luckily he's at work.
Oh, is he? Oh, cool.
I am at work. This
Didn't
is my
recognize.
office.
You have an office? How does that work?
Well, I share it with 3 other grad students.
The weekends, only 2 of them are there, right?
Actually, no, 2 of them left, like to go home, and
Oh,
one is in town, so he probably will be in at some point during the weekend.
one of the reasons I did not like grad studies at all.
I don't know, in fairness, like, our prof is here way more than we are. Like, normally it's, you have, like, the grad students who are supposed to be there, always. And
Yeah.
then the actual supervisor will only show up, like, 9 to 5 every day, or, like, Monday to Friday, but not Dave. He's here usually from 6 a.m. to 6 or 7 p.m. every day except Sunday mornings. He sometimes takes off.
Supervisor named Dave seemed to have a good work ethic.
Yeah, it's a sample size of 2, but yeah.
In my experience, 100% of Daves have very good work ethic if they're professors.
Yeah, that's a good assessment. But tracking children, like what age are we talking
Well,
about?
all through
All through.
from the
Yeah.
from the period where you let them out of your sight comfortably to the period where I guess even right now, like I have my parents. Not that they really know about this feature, but my parents could see where I am if they really wanted to right now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, or they could tune into the podcast and see that you're sitting there in your bedroom.
Right, unless this is a green screen, I could be anywhere.
It's not that I doubt your technical abilities, Rob, but I don't think it's a green screen.
Yep, it's a green screen.
I saw it wave a little bit in the background there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think for tracking kids, you were saying that you think the freedom's good, and I'd agree to an extent. I think for live tracking, kind of like GPS, boop boop boop. Oh yeah, they're there. I don't think that's necessary. I think if you establish a system of trust with your children and enable them to be in touch with you should they need to or want to, such as a cell phone, just say, yeah, going to a friend's house, check in with me in 3 hours and let me know when you're gonna be home, kind of thing. I
Right.
think that's all you really need because, like you said, if you're relying on actual tracking, like it can fail because if they get kidnapped and they lose their backpack and their phone was in their backpack, then you'll never know, right?
Right.
Um, but if you say, yeah, you're gonna be at a friend's house until 3 and be home by 5, and they're not, then you call them and say, where are you at? Or if they text you and say, oh, going to a movie or whatever, then that's fine, and at least there's that communication to know where they are.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to a certain amount of not I wouldn't say necessarily respect, but
It's trust.
maturity and responsibility. I think that it's a great idea for 100% of people to have, well, not 100, but let's say 99% of people to have location services enabled for some people. Like you want to have at least one person know where you are, or at least be able to check where you are. Like that would make me feel more comfortable if I was kidnapped to know that Julia could just pull up her phone and locate me. Like that is reassuring to me. And I would want to explain to my child that it's not that we don't trust you because we do. It's just that if something happens, we want to be able to figure out where you are. Like it's for their safety and not because
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to be a nosy parent.
Yeah. Well, if you go to the authorities, quote unquote, aren't they able to do some sort of tracking through the cell phone provider? Not in the
No,
CIA
no, but
like
then you need
monitoring sense,
no, but
but
I don't think that's a good like there is a way easier solution where you just open an app on your phone. Like the new version iOS 8 has location sharing built into the actual messaging app, like the actual
mhm.
text messaging app. So if someone has an iPhone, I can literally I can open a person here, I can click details, and if they've shared their location with me,
Well,
it'll show it.
Facebook Messenger has that too.
You can share your location in a single message, but this is
No,
like this is
it's by
something you,
default. Like it's built in.
no, but if you tap the arrow, like the little arrow thing, you won't share your location with that message.
Right, but it's generally on unless you turn it off, isn't it?
It's a whole different thing. Facebook Messenger, it'll attach a location to an individual message if you choose to have it on. It is on by default. But this is like I click a button in the message window for contact details, and the big first thing you see is a map saying where they
Hmm.
are.
Okay.
And if you have a group conversation, it'll show all the people's locations if they've
Hmm.
allowed them. And
Right.
I just think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'd
Like
like to briefly interject and say that I think I was like completely reading it out of context, and I thought you guys meant like location services, as in like, where's little Billy now?
well, no, that's
Yeah.
what we're talking
It's
about.
that is kind of like what we're
But
talking about.
we're talking about how that's not a
But
good
not like constantly.
right. Yeah, like
Because some people might take it and
right.
bring it to that level. Like if
Parents
you're a
would
parent,
obsess over their kids if they
yeah,
didn't trust them, if they had reason not to trust them.
yeah. I'll give you an example. There was a mom in Calgary, who her son was missing since 9 a.m. that morning. It was like 3 p.m. So he was literally gone for like 6 hours, and she sent out a semi-unofficial Amber Alert for him, and got mobilized her mom community to go look for him. And
Was he missing or did he just leave for the
according to her, he was missing because she checked his favorite spots and he wasn't there and whatever, right? And then there's a post later that evening. It's like, oh, he was found safe and sound in Crowfoot, and that's all there was to it. Yeah, but then like when I first heard him, like he's only been missing for like 6 hours, like, and that's not missing. That's like just going and doing something, like,
Well,
and
again, how old is this kid? If he's like 7,
like 12, like 13, like preteen slash teenager, right? So old enough to take a bus somewhere, right?
So
Like,
probably told his mom that he was going, but
yeah. Well, that's what this is how I think it happened. The kid told his mom in the morning while the mom was busy doing something, "Hey, I'm gonna go to a friend's house and then to a movie." The mom's like, "Oh, okay, whatever," and then forgot that that's what he said, panicked, and then he turns up at a movie theater at the end of the movie. He's like, "Mom, I told you this morning I was going to a movie." But meanwhile, because he probably didn't have a phone, so that she couldn't call and say, "Hey, where are you?"
yeah.
She panicked and overreacted completely and mobilized the community to go look for him in this little area, right? And it's
Yeah,
like,
it's like you need to have a discussion beforehand, and that whole thing could have been avoided.
yeah,
I remember,
or to give your kid a cell phone so that he can either
yeah,
check in if plans change, or she can call and say, "Oh, just wondering where you were. I thought you were gonna be home at 3."
that I don't know if like the longest, I forget even what it's called, being grounded. Yeah, that's what it is. The longest, worst grounding I ever got was because I went to the mall after school, and I was I think 16.
Is that the one where you told your dad you were going to my house and then he called me? Oh.
No, no. Um, it was I was celebrating an anniversary with my girlfriend at the time, and I forget. I think I told them. I think I said like I'm going, and I ended up getting back at like 9 p.m. To keep in mind, like full teenager. Like if I had told them where I was going, it would have been fine. But I didn't. For some reason, I like they didn't have some piece of information that they needed, and I got in a huge amount of trouble. I think I was grounded for a month,
Oh, wow.
and I was
I don't
just
remember that.
I would legitimately my defense, and I think it's still reasonable, is why didn't you just call me? I had a phone.
Yeah.
They
Also,
shouldn't have to call you Robert.
No, but they should have to call me. This shouldn't be on me. I'm
okay,
a forgetful child. If they want to know where I am, they can call me.
as a side note, if you're a teenager and you're gonna go do something you're not supposed to do, and you involve someone else in your story about what you're doing, tell that person you're involving so they know to cover for you when the parents call you to see where you are.
Yeah,
That's a number one tip that I have for
that was
today.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't even remember the exact circumstances of that, but yeah,
Well, you're gonna go hang out with Cody,
that
and
happened in
then
an episode of Seinfeld, I believe, as
yeah,
well.
and then he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to Mike's house," and then his dad called me, and
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, is Rob there?" I'm like, "No, why would he be here?" And then the story fell apart right there.
Uh, that was good times. I don't think I ever endangered myself in any way. It was just growing up. It
Yeah.
was growing up. Things happen.
Anyway, that's tracking.
Yeah, that is tracking, and I think it's a good thing. So why don't we move on to the next topic? We'll do we'll move to the internet because that's another thing that comes up a lot. Um, and again, when we were growing up, it was sort of the beginning of the real internet, not just static web pages. It was things that could actually get you in trouble and start communicating with the wrong people, and there weren't really social networks where you sort of feel like there's a level of trust. If you see someone on Facebook, you trust that they say they are because you
It,
see them in real life, but
yeah. It was a very anonymous.
yeah,
It was an anonymous internet back then.
right.
Yeah.
So your question was, how do you balance respecting a child's privacy with ensuring their safety when they're being exposed to the internet? And so what
Was
do you
that
think?
my question or was that yours?
That was yours. I
Oh.
had a slightly different one.
Oh, okay. I'll let Nick answer this one.
Oh, sorry, what was the question once more?
So there's a balance between the child's privacy and ensuring their safety when they're using it.
Okay. I don't know, that's tough. Like, especially from my perspective, because when I was young and like chat rooms were becoming a thing, I was like, why would I want to talk to other people? Talk to enough people in my day-to-day life. Why would I just inflict more people upon myself?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. You just, especially depending on ages and stuff like that, I guess you just have to trust that they'll make the right decisions. Like, tell them up front that, like, people can lie on the internet. It is possible. But I don't know what you can really do past that. It's the
Mhm.
same as, like, letting your child wander out into the real world.
Yeah, at a certain point, you kind of have to not let go completely, but like go over here and just be aware that there's bad people in the world.
I mean, granted, if 30-year-olds start showing up at the door and asking for my child by screen name,
Yeah.
probably,
You told me to share my
maybe have
location.
Yeah.
yeah, like,
I mean,
yeah.
from my perspective, growing up and all through right now, if someone told me that I'm restricting your internet use, you can't do whatever you want, you sort of have to. I mean, when I was growing up, I had a whitelist of sites. So every site that I went to, we had like the whatever blocking system. I think it was Norton, but I had to have every website approved.
Right.
And that was super, super annoying on the internet because it doesn't get you anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first instinct when that happened was to try to break the internet security. And that is why I have such an interest in technology today. Like at least most of it is that I thought it was so cool that you could set up these kinds of blocks and that also there are ways around them. And so like that was the earliest computer hacking that I ever did, was trying to get through internet security.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if there had been a conversation instead of just we're putting this on and deal with it, it would have been sort of different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Across all times and peoples and cultures, people have yearned to breathe and browse free.
Is that a quote from something?
That sounds like a quote.
No.
That was very convincing.
Very convincing. I don't know what movie that would have been from, but it
Sounded like a Lord of the Rings type quote.
like Shakespeare.
You can attribute the quote to me now, if you'd like.
So yeah, what do you think, Mike? What do you think about the balance, and
Yeah.
what are your plans coming up as the internet gets exposed?
Yeah. Well, my plan is to just get rid of anything internet accessible in the house so that nothing can get in. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think for me, just based on my own experiences growing up, and I think just establishing a level of communication and openness. I don't think it's effective to just block everything except for whatever you think is, safe or whatever.
Right.
I think to an extent you can come across things you're not wanting to as a child. You click on a link that you think is something and it's something else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Pops up.
Yeah, or yeah, pop-ups, whatever, right? Like I don't know if there's anything. I don't know. It's hard. It's like you either block it all from the start or you let them see what's out there and then they talk to you about it, and
Right.
then it's like, yeah, this stuff is out there. You need to be careful what you click on, and in the meantime we'll put up protections that you don't come across that, and you have filters, and then you can start whitelisting things as they get blocked. So say, because filters aren't perfect, right? They'll filter things that aren't,
Yeah,
that
of
don't need to
course.
be, right? So say Emma's trying to get onto a site and it's blocking it, and she'll come to us and say, hey, I'm trying to get on the site, and it's like, oh yeah, that's fine, and then you whitelist it, right?
Right.
But I don't think you necessarily want to shield them and keep them naive to what's out there.
I don't know if this is going to change as I start having kids, but it seems it's very confusing because my thought is expose, like let them know about everything. Like they're
Mhm.
going to find out either way, and
Yeah.
especially in school these days, kids
Yeah.
talk about everything amongst each other. So you're not really going to shield them from anything. Just
Right.
explain
Yeah.
that there are dangers and there are issues and
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
are ways to protect yourself.
And I'd rather be the first point of contact or first introduction to that than a friend in school pulls up their smartphone and shows her whatever, right? Like it's gonna happen, right? Like I hear that story all the time that kids are watching stuff on their phones during class,
Yeah.
like, and it's like, okay, so that's happening now. Like,
So instead of just the birds and the bees, you have to have like the internet talk with your
oh
kid
yeah,
now.
for sure, yeah, and drugs and alcohol, and it's not just, oh yeah, like whatever. It's like you got to get real pretty early.
And it all happens, it happens way faster
Yeah.
than. I mean, I didn't know that drugs existed, like other than prescription drugs, until university, and even then it was hazy.
Yeah.
Like I had no exposure in high school, but I know that's different now, and I know that my experience was unique at the time.
We had to do like presentations on various styles of drugs in like grade 8, I
What
think.
kind of school did you go to?
No, like we were discussing like all the like there were legitimate drugs too, but like we had to do a presentation on like all manners of them. I think I had
Yeah.
like opiates.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Rob, I
like
think you
That
must
would
have
have
done it
been
in
cool.
high school, Rob. Like with career and life management, I think they covered drugs.
Career and life management was an online course, and it was nothing.
It was online for you? We had it in school. Like we
No,
had an actual class.
it was nothing. It was useless.
Hmm.
Yeah, wasn't helpful. It didn't. It did like I watched that '70s show completely naively. Like that's not a joke. That actually happened. I thought they
Yeah.
were smelling incense
To
the
to be
whole
honest, to be
until
honest, I
freshman year.
yeah. I didn't know that when they were in that circle that they were getting high. I didn't know that either. Until I think that was actually pretty recently. They're like, "Oh, they're so high." I'm like, "What?" And then like I knew what drugs were. I knew what getting high
Yeah,
was, but I
I
didn't.
didn't know what drugs were. I didn't
Yeah.
know that was a thing.
Nick's like, "Wow, you guys are stupid."
no, I'm just like actually I don't know because I don't think I actually watched that 70s show when it first came out. I like started watching reruns of it in high school, and then by that time I knew that marijuana was a thing.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I couldn't empathize in the least with it, but I was like, they're acting silly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I found out after high school that there was drug use in my high school, but I had no idea while it was going on. Like I didn't know drugs were a thing, and maybe that's part of my clean cut image that that happened. But
I
yeah,
don't know, I imagine you're off in your own little world, like
well, I was already
thinking
in my
about the
own world.
future and
I didn't need any kind of drugs. I was already in my own world.
I was high on life.
also the.
Yeah, it. But yeah, being exposed. I mean, man, it's interesting because, and I know that everyone feels about this slightly differently from the way they were raised, but I honestly would want my child to be fully exposed to the internet, to not have any list, and to just let them like talk to them about being careful about these kinds of things. Like for the most part, the internet is a wonderful, miraculous place, but there's, well, maybe not for the most part, but the small, the small percentage of good stuff is really good.
What was that movie? The internet is for porn. That that video
Avenue
from
Q,
way back. Yeah.
That
That
sounds,
was
yeah,
a long
that
time
sounds
ago.
about right.
best musical I have ever seen, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you like, in a word, do you guys agree that kids should be exposed to the internet and warned of the dangers, or do you think they should be blocked from it and like slowly, this is one site, here it is, like
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily want to show them
right,
everything
not show
per
them,
se.
but like explain.
Like, yeah, but I'd want to introduce them that these things exist and how easy it is to come across them. I
Right.
think that's the main thing. I don't think you want to like just jade them from early on and like
There are
like I don't know.
people on the internet. Here they are.
Yeah.
It's
So
too far, probably.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would want to, I don't know, I would want to give them like a Chromebook or something, just so that like, it's like, here's the internet, just
Take
try
care
not
of
to
it.
do anything stupid, but it's not like you can install a virus on this anyway.
Yeah. If you feel, if maybe tell them if you feel like you can't talk to me about something, first, like try to get across the message that it's fine to talk to me and we can have open communication about these things. But Urban Dictionary is there if you are confused about anything. just just type it in and it'll all be explained to you, and it's probably gross. It's strange. On the same note, we can talk a bit about social media. You have marked on here that I mean, Mike, you have always and I guess Nick probably as well, have always been really into internet forums. I don't know that I've gotten that far into forums or message boards, but definitely social media is sort of the next generation of that. I don't know. What did you want to talk about with regards to those kinds of things? It was just, I guess, not necessarily for the kid, but for you around parenting, and if I'm reading this right.
Hmm. For me, growing up, like internet forums were my friends in high school. Um, I found communities that I integrated well with and had the same interests that I did, and it was funny. And you could people from different parts of the world and different experiences and that kind of thing, and that was really beneficial for me. Um, so I definitely see it as a beneficial thing for kids to be able to interact on social media, what they have these days, and as well as internet forums. I don't know about stuff like 4chan and Reddit if they're be considered entirely beneficial, but I'd
Never
still
4chan. Never. If I could
Not
block one site.
Reddit maybe.
yeah,
Reddit
Reddit maybe
good
not
stuff.
4chan. But like I think there's still merit to the concept. And again, it goes back to communication. Like if Emma finds a friend online and or an online community, then that's awesome. And these days they're doing like meetups and all that kind of stuff, and I think it can be really good. But again, it can also be dangerous, and that's where the openness and communication comes in. But I definitely be in favor of encouraging online interaction, especially with the lack of anonymity there is these days.
Anonymity.
Anonymity.
Anonymity. Anonymity.
Anemone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
What do you think, Nick?
Great question. I don't have kids. This is crazy.
Well, from your own experience, though.
I don't know. I only really got into like Reddit in university, like and late university too, because otherwise I'm sure I just wouldn't have graduated.
yeah, you wouldn't.
It's a miracle I'm still like in grad school, but I don't know. I'm fine. I'm fine with that because like it's just a way to find people with similar interests about similar things and like discussing that with someone where in your real life you might just not have an outlet for that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I found lots of that on the internet.
Sorry?
I found lots of that on the internet. Like,
Yeah.
there are people you can talk to people about stuff that nobody in your actual life cares about.
Yeah. I learned more about advanced math on internet forums than I did in my entire school career. Like I'd go to school, I'd go to class, and it'd be like some differential equations class, and I'd be like, oh, what about like this theorem? And they're like, where did you hear that about? And I was like, oh, this internet forum I was on. It's like, oh, like it's not that I had a grasping understanding of it,
Yeah.
but I had been exposed to it, and that there's like a bunch of pure math theorems out there that I otherwise wouldn't have even been exposed to.
Yeah, and I think that's like the good side of internet
Right.
forums and stuff like that. There are definitely bad sides, but I mean it comes down to communication and like trust, I guess. It's just
Did your teacher call you a nerd?
No, I think he was just like kind of weird out. Maybe he thought I was just bluffing or like just trying to look good or something, but I was actually genuinely interested in this advanced stuff that he was talking about. So
I guess some teachers probably do get kind of disillusioned that what they're doing isn't helping anything, but every once in a while, like kids, like I love science, I love math in school, and I would ask genuine questions like that, like genuinely interested, not just trying to suck up, I just want to learn.
Yeah.
that was actually like for me last summer, like working with kids, like they were just so curious about everything, and I have like just a passing knowledge of a lot of things, like usually to the depth that a child would care about.
Yeah. Well, that's
So,
Rob. That's like what you're talking about this week.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
There was one group of kids that like I explained the concept of a constitutional monarchy to, because that's just like where the conversation led.
You introduced them to CGP Grey, right?
I didn't, because we weren't supposed to be using internet there, because mics. But yeah, no, it's great. They're curious. You can talk to them about things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my main goal in raising children, is to pass along that sense of curiosity and make sure
Mm-hmm.
that they're asking lots of questions and trying to figure out the world
Yeah.
the way I have.
Yeah. I know for me growing up, like I'd always say, oh, why this or what's that, or just ask questions, and the answer is like, oh, I don't know, that's a good question, or something stupid like that. But it's like I know for me, like very early on, I'm like, when I have kids, I want to be the parent that says, oh, let's look it up,
Yeah.
or oh, let's go find out, and we do it together, right? And like, because I'll get something out of it too, because I probably don't actually know the answer, and then I'd want to go look it up too. And then you just talk about the answer, and it's a learning opportunity instead of, oh, go ask your mom, or oh, you have to ask your teacher or something like that, right? Or I don't know, right?
If I'm ever too busy to talk to my child about
Mm-hmm.
anything, I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
reassess
yeah,
priorities.
yeah. And I think even to the point where you say, okay, well, like write it down, and we'll look at it later. If
Yeah.
there actually is a time where you can't just go and like look at something right away, but to at least make a point to go and like look up the answer, because the answer's out there, like especially with the internet today, right?
Yeah.
I remember being like super frustrated with that as a kid. Like this one instance sticks out to me. I was like, what if you like bored a hole all the way through the earth and then jumped in? Like what would happen? Because like, gravity pulls you down, but
Right,
like what would happen?
right.
And they're like, oh, well, you would melt once you hit the core. And I was like,
That's not
but I was
interesting.
like, what if you didn't though? Like what if it was cool? And they're like, well, it's not, so it's a moot point. And I was like, but,
No.
That's
but
what your parents said?
yeah, they're like, well, it's not. You would burn up. It's what would happen. I'm like, but I got a satisfactory answer in university though.
Well, didn't Randall Monroe tackle that in one of the what ifs?
Yeah, he did, where like you just oscillate back and
Yeah.
forth. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did that too.
Uh, Was
No,
it a what if, or was it a separate thing? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I
Yeah.
actually like asked a prof about it though,
Yeah.
or a TA, and he was like, "Oh, well, instead of like a point center of gravity, you'd probably be dealing with like a torus in reality, and you would just like pass through the torus." And I was like, "All right."
Yeah.
And like
Well, that was
8-year-old Nick was satisfied.
that. I didn't see the original Total Recall, but that was the plot of the remake, the modern one. There was like a space, not a space elevator, but an Earth elevator that took you through the core at really high speeds and somehow shielded you from the heat and radiation and all that.
Hmm. I'm glad other people have wondered.
Apparently, it is. This is totally off topic, but apparently it is radiation in our core that keeps the Earth as hot as it is, and not just
Yeah.
like molten.
Yeah, it's convection, yeah, and radiation.
Yeah.
Which seems surprising to me because I think like iron is the most stable nuclide,
The
or
final, the final
not
form
nuclide. What do I want to say? It's the most stable
isotope.
thing, not isotope.
Yeah.
Like iron 26 would be the most stable isotope of
Right,
iron.
but it's iron 50, or yeah, iron 26. That's the most stable one.
Yeah,
Isotope. Isomer? No. I think it's isotope.
periodic table like on my desk here.
Okay, chemistry nerds.
It's an isotope. It has a number of neutrons that.
Oh, okay, sorry. It's iron 26 is the atomic number.
Yeah.
It's like 55.847 is the mass number.
Yeah.
So it'd be like iron 58.
I think it's 56. I think 56 is the stable one.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not. But there's definitely a radioactive isotope of iron that exists.
I'm sure there is. The Earth is warm.
Anyway.
Let's wrap it up with, we got a question from one of our users, and we'll keep them anonymous as they've asked me. But
It was Carolyn, wasn't it?
it was not Carolyn. So
You should
basically,
say you can neither confirm nor deny that it was Carolyn.
I am not the CIA on Twitter. So basically, It is a girl, and she said, I don't feel comfortable using location services on my phone either through Google Plus on Android or iOS, or Find My Friends, which is just iPhone. Um, and basically wanted to know what the advantages are and sort of why you should use location services. And so I want because I have a firm belief that you should, but what do you guys think? Like having it turned on so that a select group of people, like I don't see the downside to having a few people, a few friends knowing where you are. It just doesn't seem like it's bad at all. What do you guys think? Mike, why don't you go first? Because I've raised this question with you already.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I think with just in general things on the internet when they ask for permissions or location services or whatever, I think I have enough trust in these companies that they're going to responsibly use my data and the stuff they're collecting. Um, and I think with location services, I don't think it can hurt. And yeah, like just the fact that you can select who you're sharing your location with, especially with Google Plus, where you just create a circle, say of the people you want to know your location, and you share your location with that circle. That's as straightforward as it can be. So I don't think it can hurt. I don't. As far as how beneficial it is, in my situation, I don't think I'd use it enough because I can just text or call or just say, where are you, and I'll get an answer that way. But I'm sure people will have more of a use for it, and I don't think it hurts.
Right. Like my thought was, if someone's driving, you don't want to be texting them and asking where they are. You just want to be able to see where they are.
Well, if someone's driving, like say if I text Maria and she doesn't answer right away, I assume that she's driving or somewhere, and I'll usually hear within the hour, and they'll be like, oh, just pulled into the mall or whatever, and it doesn't really.
There's no need for a pre-Amber Alert. See, I just feel like, and again, maybe this is just me, but I like the idea of openly knowing, like sharing my location with people. I have, I think, 15 or 20 people. Anyone I consider a friend on Google Plus can see where I am, just opening the app or going on the website. Like it's not a big deal to me to have people. I don't see what what they could do bad with that information. What do you think, Nick?
So long as you trust the people you're sharing the information with, then
Right.
I mean you're golden. I mean I specifically remember instances with you and I, Rob, where I think you texted me where are you? And I was like, I could just describe this or open the Maps app and send the GPS coordinates and I trust Rob will know and it's fine. I don't know. I think it's really useful because I mean, even last night I was hanging out with people and had to send a bunch of where are you texts or I'm here, where are the rest of you kind of things. And it's just if I could just check that, it would be so much easier.
Right.
Especially if it's people you trust, or if you could just have a toggle switch on and off for that kind of thing.
That's the beauty of it is that you do.
I'm not familiar with the Google Plus setting.
Well, I don't know about Android, but in Hangouts on iOS, there's a button in the chat window. Like if you have a multiple person chat going on, there's a button that just shares your location.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Android has that one too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Again, I use Hangouts if a bunch of people are meeting, I'm going to want to use a group Hangout to organize it. And then if someone needs my location, I literally just push the button and they have it. But maybe that's me. I don't see a downside. I just see lots of upsides. Like if you've ever wanted to know where someone was that trusts you and you trust them, why not just have the ability to passively see where they are rather than having to ask for it? It just seems, yeah.
No, I don't necessarily want people to know where I am all the time, and I don't know why. But yeah,
I wouldn't care.
There's a toggle switch.
Yeah, if I was somewhere this hasn't happened to me, if ever, in years, that didn't want people to know where I was, then I would turn it off for that 10 minutes and people could deal with it.
Yeah.
But I don't see that happening. I don't go places that wouldn't want people to know. I don't know. So we'll wrap it up, but there's one thing I do want to talk about just for a couple minutes. It sort of just occurred to me as we were starting this. I wanted to get your guys' take on this. Again, in iOS 8, I've been using it for, 2 weeks now? And there's a new feature, and I think this is something that more tech companies should adopt, and that's they have a family sharing feature. So if you can set up one person as the parent, and you attach a credit card to that account, and then they can have children or they can have other family members who can also use that credit card with the permission of whoever the person that owns that account is. And so, for instance, if you wanted to buy an app with your parents' credit card, you wouldn't have to go and ask them and have them like type it in and hit install. You would literally, like, they would press ask to buy in their app store. The request would go to the parent, and they would say, let this person have this app, and then they would buy it, and then it would get installed. And then and that you could do the same thing with music or with movies or TV or anything like that. And again, once you have that thing purchased on that account, you can have up to 6 accounts that are linked together like that. Every person on that account has that app or that content. And I think that's that's a really good idea, and it's well implemented to the point that I'm considering setting it up with Julia just because it's super convenient, and then you don't have to buy something twice.
Seems like a good idea.
So let me get this clarified. So it's basically buying one app for one price for multiple accounts?
Right, for up to 6 family members. And you'd think, like, it sounds, when you first think about it, like, man, people are just going to use this as a group of friends. They're going to share it. But I don't think it'd be difficult and not worth it to work it like that, because it all has to be tied to one credit card. So unless you want to just buy your friends' apps, then that's one thing. But I don't know, it doesn't seem as useful as it would be to families, which is the point.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I mean, do you guys have anything else you want to say? I think we can wrap it up here.
Sorry I was late.
I'm glad you showed up at all.
Me too.
Yeah.
How about you, Mike? Anything else?
Oh, I think that's pretty much it. Covered a good amount. The safety and tracking, and yeah.
Agreed.
Everyone's set to be a parent now.
Exactly. I know. I feel great now. I don't even need
That's
to.
it. I don't have to read any books or anything. I'll just watch the first half of the podcast, and I'll be all up to snuff.
There you go. All right. Well, in that case, have a good week, and I guess we'll see you actually midweek for the I/O preview show.
Yes, that is very exciting.
Episode.
The what?
You're not keeping up on your future chat? On Wednesday evening, we're doing a live mini episode on doing predictions for Google I/O, which is on the 25th and 26th.
Ooh, that is exciting. Okay.
I know, right?
All right. I can see why you do a chat for that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you then.
All right.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.